Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video with myself and Mike today. An interesting one around, we've spoken about it on this channel for a long time that there is potential change brewing in the background from a financial perspective and a shares perspective, and it looks like things are now maybe moving or things are starting to move in the background, and some sources are no longer disputing what's happening, and it's now being rumored that there's around 25% up for grabs across the board of the ownership. So that's kind of split between David Sullivan, Krasinski, obviously the gold shares as well. So around 25% are kind of equates to around 225 million as an estimation, just so everyone watching is aware of how much is actually being put up for grabs in terms of ownership or investment into the football club. So could potentially be a big one, Mike, and could lead on to maybe a larger acquisition in the future. But it's probably the first steps from David Sullivan and co. Maybe taking a little bit more of a backseat onto things, and maybe for the first time in a long time, welcoming change in the background in terms of those kind of key investments from the ownership's point of view. What's your initial thoughts on it? Is it something that's maybe promising, or would you have maybe preferred a little bit more than just 25% across the board? What's your thoughts?
So, ideally you probably want more than 25%, because we've seen in the past David Sullivan essentially just running carte blanche on the club, essentially using his relationship with David Gold to consistently outvote anyone else. However, if this 25% and the rumoured control element is going with that 25, which you would then assume that there is other caveats within that, such as whoever is buying that 25 over a period will then be looking to buy, larger stakes and be essentially the controlling element of the club, then it makes sense. And also 25% is probably the gateway where you can get in and not have to go through more of the kind of the Premier League kind of rigmarole of, fit and proper, etc. You probably can kind of circumvent some of that at that kind of level. But it's something we needed for a long time. The club is, it is arguably there to be a sleeping giant. It's a London club set in the Olympic Stadium. There's loads of stuff you can do around the Olympic Stadium. That the land around the Olympic Park and the stadium as well will ultimately be likely up for grabs for whoever comes in as that investor. It's one of the things that I think it's PAI Group, when they were coming in, were criticised for, because it was stating it was a land grab. Anyone coming into West Ham is coming in for the land grab. It's as simple as that. There's no two ways about it. There's an incredible amount of real estate there, an incredible amount of opportunity in which to do 365 days worth of revenue under the guise of West Ham to generate additional cash. That's a way of being incredibly smart and working around the sustainability rules, etc. If the club own facilities, land, etc., that they can sell, they can rent, they can kind of lease. It's a great way to give continual revenue to a football club and to create streams outside of just football, which is something I think an investor would clearly like to do, especially one that is looking to maybe diversify their portfolio of businesses.
Yeah, 100%. I think the main thing for what you're saying there is the infrastructure. What potential big investors will be looking at. We've spoken about potential Middle East, American ownership of the football club, which is probably the likeliest event right now, is that kind of Middle East ownership of the shares. So they're not going to be looking at, they're not going to be looking at this as just a footballing project. It's a lot more than that. It's exactly what you said. It's the surrounding investment and monetary value that they're going to get from acquiring those shares. So I think with West Ham, what kind of sets us apart is that location, is the fact that we have the stadium, how we have it, and also due to the fact that we have, the fan base that we do, and we're able to sell out, 60,000 tickets on a very regular basis in the Premier League as well. I think that's a massively important factor for big owners looking to acquire a Premier League club. And I mean, London kind of sells itself. We're going to obviously compete with other London-based football clubs as well, with Spurs, Arsenal, these big clubs, Chelsea. But we're kind of that next step just below those, I would say, there's not really any other London clubs that can compete with us in terms of what we can offer. Crystal Palace, Brentford, these clubs they're just not going to be on a level of West Ham in terms of the financial side. So
And to be
are
fair,
you excited?
that's not even an arrogant statement. We were, I believe, last year the 18th highest revenue earners in world football. 18th is incredible, and I think we earned more than Napoli, who won the Serie A, were in the Champions League, and I believe another Champions League club. Oh, sorry, it's Marseille was the other club, and I believe they were Champions League or Europa League last season. But those teams are historically much bigger than West Ham. However, the pool of the Premier League and the money in the Premier League is incredible, and to be the 18th highest revenue generating football club in world football, bearing in mind we are, little old West Ham, as some will have you still believe, represents essentially a potential goldmine of a club, really, in that it's already making great revenue. If you can increase what it does on the pitch, and what has been happening on the pitch in recent years has been very good, especially in Europe. If you're able to maximise on that ability, or what we've managed to achieve in the last couple of years with smart investments and so on the field, and then marry that up with very smart commercials, all of a sudden you have a club that can compete potentially on and off the field, and that then generates greater wealth for those that are already incredibly rich and successful. And let's face it, anyone coming into West Ham or looking to buy West Ham is going to need to be at that level. I think Sullivan's very much famous for saying that he wouldn't sell West Ham unless it's for like the Sultan of Brunei. Because he didn't want to sell West Ham to anyone other than people who he felt could invest more than he ever could. Which
I think for me, it has to be done right. Like, obviously, we've seen recently, we obviously discussed it on yesterday's video. The FFP regulations are so strict now that it's very difficult. You're looking at a club like Newcastle, who are potentially going to have to sell some of their best assets in the summer because of the FFP regulations, and avoiding those kind of points deductions that Everton and Forest have just picked up. So it would have to be done in the right way. I think for me, that the shift in mentality and behind the scenes action is what excites me the most from that point of view, because more and more emphasis now with these strong FFP regulations is going to be put on scouting, and it's going to be put on how can you identify talent and maximize the value of players that you're getting. I feel like it's maybe going to start to go the other way in terms of you're not just buying big players on big wages like Chelsea have. You're looking for a proper model, a proper scouting system where you can sustainably build up talent and sell it on with sell-on value. I think that's also an important point for a business as well.
You could also push clubs back to what is now seen a bit probably an old-fashioned and outdated model of investing in your own. Looking at your own youth systems. Let's be honest, our youth system over the last 2 years has been nothing short of phenomenal. Last season we just lost out to Man City, in which to be crowned essentially the best best under 18 team. We lost 2-1 against Man City. However, absolutely blitzed the Southern Division, won the FA Cup in glorious style. So it's not unfair to say that, well, we have young talent coming through. Young Potts, yes, it's League One, but he's been getting rave reviews whilst out at Wolves. At Wickham.
Yeah,
we've got young Orford, who's been compared to Declan Rice as the next Declan Rice. You've got young Casey, who looks like a good centre back. With Bama, there's still maybe some question marks there. However, he's been very good at youth levels. He does need to make the grade and step up. Marshall was another. George Murphy, just look at the comments from the players with him. There's a plethora of players coming through at West Ham, and we need to maybe start to take stock of that and look to develop one or two on our own. Send some out on our own, but however, some of them you probably need to develop in the team if they're not going to get minutes. We need to kind of say, these are the crop that we're going to take. These are ones we're going to develop ourselves over this year. Then maybe send them out on loan if they don't kind of make the leap, but do okay. You maybe send them out on loan, but that's the thing you kind of got to look at, and with the FFP stuff. But to come back to looking at who's potentially going to buy the club, it's probably going to cost them, near 225 million, 250 million. If we look at Kretinsky bought us for around 27%, I think nearly 200 million. So that was an 800 million value overall. Probably conservatively, you could say the club's grown quite exponentially since then, based on how we've done in Europe over those last couple of seasons as well. You're probably nearing more the 900 million mark, which is the 225 mil for 25%. And no one coming in, I think, on that share is going to want to be playing second fiddle to David Sullivan. And obviously, there have been rumours that he wants to take a step back, hence why Tim is going to get more of a boost next year. Been loads of rumours have obviously circulated. Again, take it with a pinch of salt. Either agree with them, you don't. But he was brought in essentially as a bridge between, what we have now to what we're going to have.
Yeah.
And it's the time frame as well, which I find the most amusing as to, there's nothing happening as yet. There are no talks happening. There is no way that, bearing in mind we're in March now, and they're asking to or expecting to have a deal done by May, June, that there hasn't been conversations probably up to that point of where it happens for around 6 months.
Yeah, there's definitely been conversations. And I think one of the conversations around Karen Brady going out to Dubai. Now, whilst Karen Brady has been a successful businesswoman and is, I would question around West Ham, she's not going to be the real person putting them in. Bearing in mind we have Trip Smith, who is a person who deals in depreciating assets. That's how he's made his money, depreciating assets. What do we currently play in? A depreciating asset. Yeah.
At the point of when Kretinsky came in, West Ham was a depreciating asset. Basically, we were struggling because of COVID. We had no real money to fund what we were doing. Kretinsky coming in and putting capital in the club essentially kept it going because Sullivan and Gold were basically didn't have a pot to urinate in. So, he came in and kind of saved them at that point. And when you kind of look at those kind of things, and there had been rumours that David Gold's shares had been sold way back around December, January time. However, nothing happened because there was a lot of talk as to we knew those shares were up for sale. We knew there was also advanced conversations, which that conversation has apparently now changed as to, there never was.
Yeah.
It's interesting that there was, and there was this thought that maybe investors may come in January. Now, there's every chance that investors were willing and interested, however, didn't want to buy 10%.
Yeah, I think the timing is massive, isn't it? With what we're saying is potentially happening in the summer. Obviously, the stuff around the training grounds now come out, and you're looking at the current split of the ownership right now. Obviously, David Sullivan sits at the top around 38%. You've then got obviously Krasinski on 27%. Then you've got the Gold shares on around 25%, and then LSC on 8%, and other investors 1%. So that 25% between those, that kind of load, is really going to be interesting to see what type of money they're fueling the club with, what their focus is, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's actual transfer development, whether it's hiring within the internal staff. It's really interesting, and I think as well it's going to be interesting to see where that revenue comes from, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's from America, whether it's UK, wherever it's there's a lot of rumors where it could be coming from. So I think in the next few weeks, like you say, we're already in March, going into April, new financial year, there's definitely going to be some movement, and 100% for the summer with, obviously the manager situation still up in the air, what we're doing on the training ground side of things, potential selling of the likes of Lucas Paqueta, who's obviously our highest valued player at the club. So lots going on this summer, and it's also dependent on where we finish in the Premier League. We could be sat here in the summer with European football again, even Champions League football, if we somehow pull off the miracle and win the Europa League. So there's a lot going on. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
What will also be interesting, Frank, is that if we do, there's obviously the talk is Middle East, and Trip Smith obviously has worked for sovereign funds in Middle East, and obviously in the US. So if there's going to be contacts, it's most likely being coming from Trip Smith and using his extensive kind of business and acquisitions kind of history and past, and obviously West Ham and the depreciating asset that is the London Stadium and the grounds is probably something that he's very much been selling to would-be investors. And I'm pretty sure he's put in way back when, in which to find investors ready for when Sullivan and Gold are ready to make that sale.
Yeah.
And I think we did say last year we thought it was going to happen then, but I think the passing of David Gold kind of put the kind of it on the back burner really, because obviously I think it changed priorities for many. But I think this season we're going to see that change, and obviously hopefully in May we'll probably see what's happening. But
Yeah.
what a feather in the cap it would be for someone to come in May with obviously significant funds and to lay down a marker of, we're not selling Paqueta. Are we going to keep Paqueta? He is the crown. He's the crown jewel. Him, Kudus, and Bowen are the crowns in our jewel. They are not going. They will remain at the club. And not only that, we're going to give, say, a new contract to Paqueta, a long-term contract, and we're going to build around him. He's going to be, the main one. What a way to immediately ingratiate yourself to the fans, to come in and make that statement, and also makes a statement to the rest of the league of, we don't need to, and we will not be selling our best players. And if we do sell them, you're going to be spending
a lot of money,
more than top dollar.
Yeah.
85 million obviously is not to be sniffed at for Paqueta, but if someone was able to come in and sell him the idea and the dream of, this is what we're going to be doing off the pitch. On the pitch, our plan is also to do this. If you give us time, we'll build a team around you, and you can be the main person with Bowen and Kudus, because we want that to continue. Fans will buy into that instantly, because they'll see, all this stuff's happening off the pitch. We can see Paqueta's staying. Even if there's not huge investment in terms of big marquee signings, but as long as there's smart signings and we keep players like Paqueta and Bowen and Kudus, fans will sit there and go, well, this is really promising.
Yeah, it has to be done right, doesn't it? It can't be I mean, Chelsea's the prime example of, Todd Boehly coming in and, maybe getting things a little bit wrong. So, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. Definitely more news is going to come out over the next month or 6 weeks or so. So definitely stay tuned on that, and we'll keep you updated with any developments that we hear. And yeah, really interesting times at West Ham, as always. Plenty to be talking about, even when it's international break. So yeah, hopefully we'll have some more developments soon on that front. And yeah, if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the video. Make sure to leave a comment as well down below, your thoughts on the whole situation behind the scenes, and would you be welcoming of a takeover at West Ham, or someone coming in and acquiring around 25% of the shares of West Ham United? Yep, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and Mike, until next time,
come on, you
once.